Hi, everybody. I'm Rick Dancer. Welcome to Get Real with Rick Dancer. I'm really excited to have you here today. We got a really different kind of show today. I was on one of my social media channels, and a gentleman we've had on the show before, Richard Miller, lives in Ohio right now, is going to be moving to Missouri. He had some pictures on the other day, and I'm like, what is that? And what I realized after reading a few things that he was doing an old-fashioned barn raising, and all these people showed up from all over the country who are friends of his and helped him build a barn in just a couple of days. And I don't know why, they just piqued my interest. So we're going to talk to Richard about that. I think especially in our culture today, that's very unusual. And so I want to talk about that. So I hope that you'll stick around and maybe learn some things about, we don't have to do things the same old way. We can kind of go back to some old traditions and help each other. So our show is sponsored by, speaking of helping each other, we couldn't do our shows without people like Michael Dental. You're looking for a dentist in Eugene, Springfield area. Dr. Bratland is your man. They're looking for someone to work. They're looking for people always at Albert Taylor. They work with people with different abilities and wonderful folks. So if you're looking for a career of something that's very meaningful, they're come on. And New Leaf Hyperbarics and Wellness Center, Matt McCarl, another sponsor for a long time, doing wonderful work in light therapy, hyperbarics, massage, you name it, he does it. They do some of the most crazy stuff and is awesome. Right here in Montana Oral Surgery and Dental Implant Center. They have offices in Butte, Bozeman, Great Falls, and in Helena. And right here in Helena as well, Greg Hinkle, New American Funding. We just did a podcast with him today, and he says he thinks interest rates will be coming down and the housing market will be settling out. But we also have that presidential election we have to be thinking about. He says, but now is a good time to buy a house. So speaking of houses and building, Richard Miller, I'm going to bring you on here. Your mic is off right now, it shows me. Are you on? You are on. There he is.
Yep.
So
hey Rick.
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic.
I met Richard on here on TikTok, Instagram, one of them. I don't know which one because we're all on all these social media channels. So I don't know which one it was on. But I met him on here and we hit it off, started talking. And what's really funny, then I went to a Dave Ramsey conference and I did a show with Richard and some other folks on people who've left the Amish
Mennonites,
and some Mennonite communities. And we had a really interesting discussion about that. So I get to the Dave Ramsey conference and some guy walks up to me, Maltz, and he says, hey, you're Rick Dancer. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in somewhere clear across the country. And some guy walks up to me and says, you're Rick Dancer. Well, he's friends with Richard. Then later, another guy comes up and he says, hey, I saw you on a show with Richard Miller. And I'm like, what in the heck? And so a whole group of his friends are there. And now I've met some people that are also friends with Richard that live here in the Montana area here in Helena. So you get around, my man.
Yeah, I've got a lot of friends in a lot of places. I'm a very blessed man that way.
So tell me about this barn raising, because how did you guys put that whole thing up in like just 2 days or something?
Yeah, it was a 40 by 70 with a 14 by 32 porch. As a matter of fact, I'm sitting on the porch, and if you want, let me flip the screen around. Is that possible?
Yeah.
Let me flip the screen around, and I'll walk out, and I'll actually give you a little bird's eye view of the building. How do I flip the screen around? Actually, I'll just.
You may have to just turn the camera. Just put it behind you. Like turn it around, and is that it behind you? Oh, there we go. No, that's your picture.
No. Yeah, that's it. That's behind me.
Okay, so go a little bit to the. Yeah, there we go. Oh my gosh, this thing's huge. In 2 days.
I'm having trouble. There we go.
No, I could see it. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 days, 40 by 70. It's a technically people call it a barnuminium, and technically it's our house and our shop. And I don't like the term barnuminium, but that's a personal issue with me. It's a marketing term, and I never did like it. But I put this up on. Let me back up. We bought this. Let me back way up. I grew up 75 miles from here in the Missouri Ozarks, and for 33 years I've been wanting to come home. Soon after I left home, I knew it was a mistake. Like, why did I leave? Why did I leave? Because my heart's always been in the Missouri Ozarks. And so when I was on discussion groups or whatever, I would put my tagline, I live in the West or, Colorado, wherever I was living, but my heart is in the Ozarks. And finally I decided, you know what? I'm 52 years old. I'm never going to get younger. Let's make this dream happen. So we started looking. My son and his wife came back and they looked and they fell in love with the area, and they're going to move to here in the next few months. They're trying to find a place to rent. And so we're like, we're going to move. And so we started looking. We found 10 acres, beautiful place here near West Plains, Missouri. And it's a gorgeous, it's so peaceful up here, very private. And we started making plans to build a house on it, and a house and shop combination, like just a big kind of a barnuminium, if you will. And I had this crazy, audacious idea to do an old-fashioned barn raising. Because see, my background, my dad grew up Amish. I grew up very conservative Mennonite, so we called them frolics. And we, like, growing up, nobody in our church that I grew up in ever hired anybody to build a house. We just came together on the weekends, on Saturdays, and we built each other's houses. That's just how it was. And so that's my cultural heritage. But I dismissed it. That's audacious. That it felt centered around me, and I didn't like it. After the second one of my friends said, "Hey, Rich, you should do like a barn raising," the light bulb went on, and I realized this is not about me. This is about something way bigger than me. Yeah. And Rick, we met. I grew to appreciate you. You were a great voice during the whole thing of the COVID isolation, and asking the right questions and pushing back. And I kept telling my friends on social media, like, this guy is there just solid. He gets it. Like, listen to him, because you were a good voice during that time, because it was the isolation that happened. Yeah. And even if you rebelled against the draconian isolation measures, the isolation still happened to us. We became very isolated during that time, and we're still suffering the effects of it. And we desire connection. We want connection, and we all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And we all want to like, yeah. Anyway, and I got the picture that if I would put this project together, I would give people an opportunity to connect, give my friends an opportunity to connect, be part of something bigger than ourselves, community, connection. And the light bulb went on. So I threw it up on social media, and I was astounded by the response. And I told Tina, my wife, I said, honey, I think we're going to have like at least 25 people here, maybe 40. Well, there was over 100 people here with women and children.
What? Because I know our mutual friend. So here's where it gets even weirder, you guys. So I go into La Grande, Oregon with my wife.
Yep.
Walk into a bowling alley, and all of a sudden this dude comes in, and he says, "You're Rick Dancer," and I said, "Yeah," and he goes, "I found you through Richard Miller on this page, and he's not formerly Amish or anything like that. He's just a friend of yours." And he was there at the barn raising.
Yep.
And he's from La Grande, Oregon. So you had people from all over the country there.
La Grande, Oregon, Wyoming, Florida, Pennsylvania, Iowa, Michigan, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Kansas, Kentucky. I'm sure I'm missing some.
What did it do for the people that came to help you?
That's the amazing part. So early, I was still a little bit nervous about this being like it would appear like it's self-centered, like I'm trying to get something out of it. And that's not the picture that I had. But I noticed a pattern early on in the responses. Nobody was saying, well, maybe a couple people, but virtually nobody was saying, "Oh, let's go help Richard build a house." That's not what they were saying. People were saying, "I want to be part of this." Right. And then after everybody left, the amount of thank you for the opportunity, thank you, the connections that people made. There are people that made connections here that will be a lifetime connection. Friendships that were forged here working on this project. One of my friends, I better not say any names, but there's a very real possibility that one of my friends who's been struggling to find enough work, he was actually given a tentative job offer by one of the people at this project, and my friend was here, and that connection was made, and he might have fresh employment at a very good employer.
So I was listening to a podcast this morning, and I won't say which one it was, because people then start focusing on who's talking and all this kind of stuff. But they were talking about the world we're living in right now is very precarious right now. And they were talking about, in a religious context, the end times of what were coming if we were thinking on that direction. But do you think that we're getting to, we have this affordable housing crisis, and maybe the secret is working together to reconnect. COVID disconnected us. Our politics is disconnecting us. Maybe this kind of thing, because what if I help you build a house, and then you help me build a house, and this group of people, and then Bill's daughter needs a house, so they start building. So all of a sudden it becomes a faster process, a more connective process. And maybe in the future, we're going to need each other more. And this is a way to connect people back together.
And I'm telling people, maybe you don't want to do something as crazy and nuts as this kind of project, because it took a lot out of me. It's audacious. I'm not an event planner. And we were cooking for this 100+ people in primitive environment. Like, we had no running water. The last couple of days I did get a little bit of temporary running water up because my well was drilled, but we didn't have electricity. We had a few generators. So we're basically camping in the woods, and it's audacious. It's crazy. It's way out there, but it worked. And there's a reason why. Before we finish, I want to tell you the smartest thing I did in this whole project, because it's really important. But what I'm telling people is, go find a small project and practice. Go bring your neighbors together. Maybe you need to clean a fence row out. Well, man, that's my responsibility. I don't care. Go call your neighbors up and say, hey, let's get together at 2:00 Saturday afternoon and clean the fence row. And then we're all going to go in the kitchen, and I'm going to buy some good food or whatever, and we're going to cook together. And this connection will happen. I grew up with it. I took it for granted. And I'm realizing how much the world is missing that. And then if you take that and escalate that up and start doing that, next thing you know, we'll be building houses for each other, and we'll think it's normal.
Do you think that we've lost that? We're almost too lazy to connect with our neighbors and our communities. You know what I mean? Because it takes effort. I mean, it takes planning and effort, and then showing up and conversing, sharing, opening ourselves up, all the things that people used to have to do. And, it's kind of funny, because you left the Mennonite community, or the Amish and Mennonite communities, you're part of that there. And yet you have taken the best of that, and you're still incorporating that into your life.
That's what I'm trying to do. And something very interesting. The vast majority of the people that showed up at this event are ex-Mennonite and ex-Amish. We grew up doing this, we miss it, and we came together. Now, there was a few people that were still Mennonites. There was actually a local Amish community here in Missouri, and the bishop of that local Amish community showed up on Friday, and I asked him to give the prayer for the new meal, which is kind of a big deal in that world. Like, you get the highest, when you have a gathering in that world, and you kind of tend to get the highest ranking religious authority there. And I'm out of that. I don't play that game. But I looked at it and I said, you know what? This is going to be my neighbor. I want to honor him. And he spoke the most beautiful words of we're all different here, but we're all coming together for the same purpose. And he prayed the most beautiful, I hate the word inclusive because it's come to mean something very dirty and ugly, but the most inclusive, beautiful, inclusive because Mennonites, Amish and conservative Mennonites tend to be exclusive. Like it's you versus us versus them. And
Right.
and he in his little speech and his prayer opened his arms and wrapped it around those people in a pastoral way, and it was so beautiful, it was so wonderful to have the and there were ex Amish who'd been really hurt by the Amish community were there, and they were crying with his beautiful prayer. It's like people can just come together and love each other, and all kinds of powerful stuff happen. See, that's what this whole thing is. Forget the house, forget the mechanics of it. This was about love. I loved on people, and they came and loved me back. And you know what? The quality of my construction project was very high. It's not perfect. No construction project ever is. But, you know, when you have these contractors that are doing shoddy workmanship, now you get 100 volunteers, again, that includes women and children, together, and it's the risk of just shoddy workmanship and, you know, slapped together. None of that happened. It's a primo quality job because it was motivated by love. Love is everything, Rick.
Richard, you know, it's funny because you, so you left this lifestyle.
Yep.
You take the best of what you had and you're redoing that, but then you're still, like, a lot of people would not even want to be around folks that are still in the lifestyle or wouldn't be allowed. And you're breaking down all these walls and not meaning to, but, you know, out of the love to help somebody, those walls are crumbling down. You see what I mean?
I know, and I understand why they don't want anything to do, because if they've left, they've probably been hurt really bad. Not all of them, but a lot of them. I understand that. But, you know, and I used to be there myself, but I'm at the place where this is my people. This is my cultural heritage. I'm not one of them anymore, but I love them. I ain't mad at them. And I just want to put my arms around everybody.
Do you think God's bigger than what we give him credit for?
Yeah, big time. Bigger than even my wildest imagination.
How so? How so? Describe that for me.
Okay, so we all have this construct of what is right and wrong based on our environment, on our inputs that we've had, and everything like that. And then we start putting God into that box, and we think everybody, like, even if you think you're like inclusive and again, I hate that word, you know, because of what it's become to mean, but it's still a good word. And we start putting God in this box of our mindset, and God is bigger than that. And God, see, the Bible says God is love. Doesn't mean that God loves us. It means that he is, in fact, love. And love has no box. Love transcends everything. And love, it's good and it's holy and pure and right, and it lifts people up. But if I start going, well, see, like in the Mennonite world, okay, look, this shirt that I'm wearing was absolutely verboten and like absolutely not allowed. And in the culture that I grew up in, God's bigger than that. But see, then I have my own things, and I'm not saying that God is okay with all kinds of wickedness. That's not what I'm saying. But love transcends all that and draws people in and lifts people up and draws people to God. Can't we just be that? And I don't mean to get all religious on you, but it's love.
Do you think that we? I always feel like we also feel like we have to go to a box to find God when he's living in the Ozarks, or I find him when I'm, you know, hiking in the mountains of the Rocky Mountains in Montana, and you get to 9,000 feet and you come up out of a peak and to the top of a ridge, and you look out and see 100 to 200 mountain peaks out there. And in my mind, what I say is, I found God's playground.
Yep, exactly.
I know where he hangs out. And you know what, the whole time, Richard, I like, I can do this with you, so I think it's funny. The whole time I was hiking up, I was thinking in my head, because it was 7 miles. Well, it was actually 7 miles and then another 3.5. But on the 7 miles up in there, I'm thinking, and I'm a little afraid of heights. So as I'm going through, it's a challenge, and I'm talking in my brain, going, "It's okay, it's okay. Mm-hmm. You're going here." And I started thinking, you know, this hiking to, like Moses did, and Moses had to go to the top of the mountain to get the 10 Commandments. And it was an effort. It wasn't easy. And everything getting to God is never easy. It's always an effort. Jesus had to go to the wilderness He didn't find God in the streets of Jerusalem, or who he was in God and his ministry and life by sitting around and hanging out with the Pharisees. He found it by going out into the wilderness and being tested by evil. And I think we're also afraid sometimes of things, our fears, and especially after COVID, fear is such a huge motivator for people anymore. And it's not, I don't think it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be fearless. When I read, it says fear brings on more evil. I don't want more evil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't need any more of that. So climbing up that mountain, I thought, I am working my way up to find the seat, the footstool of God. And I got up there and my wife started to cry because it was so beautiful. And I was just amazed, just standing there and going, this is what it's all about. And then coming down, you'd run into other people that had the same goal. They were all going the same way. They weren't, I don't know that they were religious or their faith or anything, but we were all doing the same thing.
Yep.
And you had that in common. Maybe what this whole thing is about is we've been locked down, we've been locked up, we've been shut down, we've been shut up. And now it's time to find ourselves again as neighbors, as community members, as, in the Jewish faith, there's no such, you can't love without action, so love is an action. So if I love my wife, it doesn't mean I have to go buy her flowers, but that is showing love. But I have to do something. I can't just say, I love you. There's an action behind it. And I think that's the same for community. We got a lot of people in communities. They say, yeah, I live in this community, but they're not part of it and they're not doing anything in it. So you provided people with a way to experience something that is very old fashioned, old school, and very biblical, is to bring people together with one purpose and see what happens. And you don't have to check at the door to find out, oh, now, are you a Mormon? Oh, are you a Lutheran? Are you an evangelical? Do you believe Mary was a virgin?
None of that.
Yeah,
none
no,
of that.
no.
Love transcends all that.
Right. So
this project, go ahead.
You said, remember, I got to tell you this other thing, something that happened. So I don't want you to forget. I don't leave without that.
But I do want to talk about the fear thing first, if you don't mind.
Go.
So one of the things that we're talking about, and I'm encouraging people like the fence rower, whatever it is, like gather people around, you run a risk of rejection. And today with social media, we can connect with people without rejection. Social media removes the FaceTime aspect of that. And I'm big time on social media. You're big time. I'm not against social media, but it's a safer place. And if you're going to step out of your comfort zone and pursue this and gather people around, you're going to face the risk of rejection. And that fear will want to rise up in you. But you're never going to make that connection. And when you connect with other people, that's when God can show up. You're never going to find God if you're going to give into that fear. Like I will have a fire pit out here in front of our house here, on our porch. And what we're going to do is we're going to invite people over. We're going to invite the local Amish. We're going to invite the local hippie. We're going to invite the local banker. All these people, and we're going to invite them over and bring them around this fire pit. Maybe once a week, maybe every Saturday night during the summer. I don't know what it'll look like. We do some of this in Ohio, and we're going to sit around there and we're going to cook some food together. We're going to roast some hot dogs or whatever, steaks, pork chops, whatever it is on this fire pit or on my grills here on the porch. And we're going to connect with each other. And then people are going to start to feel safe with each other, that they're going to become vulnerable with each other. And then things will happen that will transform our lives. God will move into that space and transform our lives, and it will be community. So that is worth pursuing and overcoming that fear.
Do you think that was really the whole purpose of the church? Not to come in and make sure everybody believed what you believed, or that the tithe was given and all this kind of crap, but it was really to bring people together so you could interact and fall in love with each other. And in that relationships, in those obscure relationships, you get glimpses of who God really is.
I really believe that with all my heart. There's a book out there called The Other Half of Church. and he addresses this, and he makes a biblical case for exactly what you described, that when we come together, that joy erupts within us for seeing each other. And that's the joy that God feels when he sees us. And in the middle of that joy is when we level up as human beings. That's the most effective way to get somebody to level up, to become better, to leave their bad habits behind, to walk, become a better person, is in the context of joy. And that's what we're supposed to be experiencing. And then churches have become everything but, and it's so sad. But read that book sometime or listen to it. The Other Half of Church. He gives the scientific and the biblical basis for what you just said.
See, I always kind of feel like, like at the end of I guess the way I've kind of lived my life, I've tried to live my life, is that, when I was a news reporter, I talked to thousands of people. I mean, interviews, and you'd get in their lives for maybe an hour and a half, when you're out there shooting this story with them. But you really, if you allowed yourself to, I'd always go in with this attitude, like, I'm going to take a piece of you with me, and I'm going to give you a piece when I leave. So that meant intimacy in terms of, I'm going to be vulnerable with you, and you're going to be vulnerable with me. And then but I always felt like when this is over, I'd be standing there with God, and we'd be looking out on the sea of people, and I'd say, God, who are they? And he goes, oh, those are the people that you touched their lives. And it's this long, long line. And then they went off and touched other people's lives. And then all the people in this line that touched my life, and we're all one big, long line of people. And he said, that's what following me is all about. And I think we've gotten so far away from that because, we've moved away from rural communities. I'm doing a podcast sometime in the next future. I already did it, but I can't remember when it airs, but it's on, they created these maps in Oregon, these fire maps, and they're basically making it more and more expensive to live in rural America. And they're trying to push everybody to the urban zones to get people into the cities, because I think in the city, I was listening to a podcaster this morning. He said, when you're in New York City, it's beautiful, but you can't see vast, expansive land. And you get out in the Ozarks, like you're talking, or the wilds of Montana, and you see nature, not man-made. Man makes some great buildings, and I think God, creative people are amazing, but there's nothing like seeing nature. And the more we don't interact with each other in neighborhoods, in our groups, and those kind of things, we're missing out on community.
Exactly. And you said something about all the people that your lives, who've touched your lives, and people who you've touched their lives. It is my personal goal to live my life in such a way that at my funeral, the number one thing that you will hear is, my life is better because Richard was in it. I have no higher goal.
Richard, I think, not that you're done, but you're already there. Because look at all the people that I have met in the weirdest ways. And no, I'm serious. And it's like, because those were true stories. I mean, I'm at a conference and some dude walks up and says, oh, you're Rick Dancer. I saw you on a podcast. I'll go on to say, I had lost my wallet and everything, all my money and my credit cards. And this person came up, doesn't know me, friend of Richard's, mutual community person. And he says, God told me to bring a couple $1,000, and I've got cash. And if you need it, you and Kathy need it to get by, since you don't have credit cards, I can do that. But I didn't end up needing it. But I mean, here's a complete stranger, but it was like, it's like you're weaving your way, and all these people are coming. And to me, I think that's also kind of sometimes, Richard, like God's way of going, see what I do? I mean, do you see what I do, Rick? I mean, look at here. I'm connecting you with this person and this person, and you have no clue. And I think that the moral, if there's a moral, or maybe the lesson in all that, is go do what you do and do it well. And don't worry about the numbers, or who's watching, or who's listening, or who's paying attention. You go live your life and let him do the touching. So and be true to who you are. I'm learning that really hard right now, because it's like, people really attack you on social media, but it's like, you know what? I'm not going to hide from when I see evil and bad, good and evil. I'm going to call it out the way I see it. People don't have to listen, and but I'm going to still do it. because that's who I am. That's what I'm supposed to do. And if you stifle that stuff and stuff it inside of you and don't be who you are, there's so many people who are trying to be somebody else. It's like, I am so bad at being Richard Miller. I am terrible at being Richard Miller, but I'm really good at being Rick Dancer. I
Yep.
got him down, and plus I know what a dumbass he is. So I'm real aware of that part. So
Yeah.
you said that I don't want to lose because I don't
Yeah,
want you to
yeah.
forget. So tell me this other thing you want to tell me.
I I found 3 highly competent building contractors that were very humble, confident, confident and competent, super great guys that were coming to help. And I asked them to be in charge of this project. They had never worked together. They barely knew each other. Some of them didn't even know each other. And those 3 came together and they took charge, and they are the ones that made the project happen. I am not the one who made the project happen. I brought in the right people and I put them in charge and let them do it. And the smartest thing I did. Even the cooking, I love grilling and I cook all the time, grilling and smoking meats and stuff. It was too many, and I couldn't do it. And I asked people like, Dave, would you do the grilling tonight? And I am being willing to ask people for help,
Right.
even when it feels selfish, but from a humble heart, asking people for help, asking people who are better than you for help is hard, because I tend to be independent, do things myself. But it's also an important part of creating community, and it's also an important part of excellent outcomes in life.
So what do you hope comes from this?
From the project,
Yeah.
I hope a whole bunch of people went home and not only are better people because they were here, the lifelong connections, all that, but that they're motivated to, in their own way, whatever that looks like for them, reach out and build some more community and build some more connections. Maybe it's going bowling together with some people that they've never done that for. I don't know what it is. I don't care. Connect with people, take the risk, and pull people together. And if you can pull people together for something of a common cause that's bigger than you, that's even better.
Could you imagine how many of the uh, people who can't afford houses right now, if we got groups of people together and you just went and did that
Yep.
without a program, no nonprofit status, no government subsidies, none of that. You just went out and made it happen. Can you imagine how you change people's lives and your own?
Yep. It would be absolutely transformative. And you know what? There might be somebody listening here. I'm saying, like, I don't care what you do something small. It doesn't matter. There might be someone listening here that sees a specific need of somebody who has a housing need. And you can actually pull a team of people together and build them it doesn't take a big house to be happy and safe and comfortable today. The tiny home thing that people are doing, a 16 by 40, 2 people can live very comfortably in a 16 by 40 portable building that you can build on blocks. And
Yeah.
you can have that, a group of 20 people can have it insulated, wired in 3 days, built. Do you know how, like, some people listening are going to have the resources and the ability to pull that together for somebody in need. Do it. Just take the risk and do it. What's
All
the
right.
worst thing that can happen? You fail. Cool. Now you learned something.
Exactly. We're so afraid to fail, aren't we? I mean, we
I
don't.
am.
Yeah, I hate to fail, but I can honestly tell you, everything I've ever failed at, I learned more than my successes, and
Yep.
every single one of them. So last thing I want you to do for me, and I don't know why I want you to do this for me,
All
but it's
right.
funny. Describe for me your love of the Ozarks.
You see what I'm wearing? Bib overalls. Bib overalls are generally worn by salt of the earth, down home folks that don't have a lot of pretense. And when I'm here in the Ozark, when I live in Ohio, when I'm in Ohio, people come up to me all the time and they say, "Oh, I like your bib overalls." Down here in the Ozarks, nobody ever mentions my bib overalls because everybody else is wearing them too. Not everybody, but I go to Walmart, I see 2 or 3 people wearing bib overalls. It's a down to earth, down home. We got your back. We're minding our own business until we got your back. It's the kind of place where I go into a place and I don't have, like, I went up to pick up some timbers for my porch and went to pay the guy, and I'm 3 days behind getting ready for this event. I don't have time for anything. And the guy wanted to show me a picture of a finish that I was looking at putting on there. And he said, my son made that 2 weeks before he died in January, my 16-year-old son. And I said, oh, what happened? And he spent 45 minutes telling me about his son, the cancer journey, his son's death, the death experience, all of that stuff. And I'm sitting there going, I don't have time for this. I will always make time for this. But that kind of experience where you just, next thing you know, it's 45 minutes later, you just had a conversation, is normal down here. You just, every time I go to town, I got to allow more time. I go in the hardware store and I have a 20-minute conversation with the owner of the hardware store. It's conversation and connection is a lot higher down here. And yeah, besides, it's very beautiful. The Ozark, the clear gravel bottom rivers, the hills, the trees, the rivers are probably the best feature. The springs, look up Big Springs sometimes. Look up and a total brain fart up in Eminence, not Eminence, Mill. Anyways, about 45 minutes from here. But Big Springs, Current River, 11 Point River, Jacks Fork River, where you can see the bottom 10, 12 feet deep. And you can see fish on the bottom. And it's just gorgeous gravel bars. And it's just a whole lifestyle.
So have you always been shy?
I've always been shy.
It's so hard to get you to talk, Richard.
You know what? I love life, and I love a lot of different things about life, and I love sharing ideas about it.
Well, I love having you on here. And I honestly, what was so great about doing this with you is all I knew was the barn raising, and I knew I'm supposed to have you on here. I had no idea where we were going to go or what we were going to do, but somebody did. I have this executive producer I work for. He's really good. He knows how to do things.
I get it. I love it. And I hope you weren't disappointed. I hope it was worth your time.
No,
I enjoyed it.
My time, Richard. I thank you. I think my audience and viewers will really enjoy this, and we'll have you on again. And when are you moving down there for good?
Don't know. October, November, somewhere in there. I got to go home and get my house ready on Monday. The insulators coming. They're going to put foam insulation in our house here, and then we're going to go home and get our house ready to sell in Ohio. And after we get it sold, we're going to move down here before any wall coverings are on. I'm going to set a toilet. I'm going to put a tub and shower in. I'm a former master plumber and electrician, heating guy. I'm going to have rated floor heating. I can do all that. And we're going, it's just my wife and I, and we're going to move in concrete floors, nothing on the walls, but insulated and heated and cooled, and a toilet and a place to wash our hands and a shower. And we're going to finish it out one day at a time. I can't wait.
I've done that, living in a remodel for, I think it was a year and a half. And
yeah.
We had it so bad that, Richard, I wanted, it's an old house and I wanted it to look old. I didn't want people to walk up to the addition and say, oh, that's the new part. So I wanted the siding to be cedar, 8-inch shiplap, the old style that was on my 1904 house. And so I had to have it cut, and then it had to dry for 6 months. So for 6 months, my house sat in pink Tyvek. And
yep.
I've even had neighbors stop by my house and they'd say, are you guys out of money?
By the way, this is my wife, Tina.
Hey,
this
Tina.
Is my wife, Tina. She is amazing, and I could not have done this without her. And I thought, this isn't about me. She has to be on here.
So, Tina, has Richard always been really shy?
Hang on, I got my AirPod in. Okay, repeat.
Has Richard always been really shy?
He's never had a shy bone in his body.
I think Richard and I are a pair, because I have a feeling he talks to anybody at the grocery store.
Yes.
makes conversation, finds reasons to talk to people. And my wife just looks at me, and my boys used to too. They'd roll their eyes. And then it was so funny. One time I went to the grocery store with my mother, and my kids and my wife all looked over and they said, "Oh my gosh, that's where you got it." Because my mom she's standing in line going, "Oh, did you get that magazine?" And she'd just be talking, making a conversation. But hey, we all have a place to play, right? That's what we're supposed to do.
Yep. 100%. You know,
Well,
I about 90 miles from Springfield, and I was in a big box store a couple times recently over there. And a few days ago, I was in there, and there was a Mennonite there that I recognized being from a particular group north of Springfield. So I walked up to him and I said, "Why should I know you?" in the language that the Amish and Mennonites speak. Well, it was my first cousin's son. I didn't know him since he's an adult. And then yesterday, there was another couple from that same church north of Springfield coming in there, and I went up to him and I said, I wonder if I'm related to y'all. And she is my second cousin. And it's a small world, but you would never make those connections unless you open your mouth and talk to people.
He's also related to most everyone.
Well, Tina, I'll let him tell you. He maybe you already know, but all the people I've run into around the country that they go, "Oh, I saw your show. You had Richard Miller on," and it was like, "Who is this guy?" And we were all laughing at the Dave Ramsey conference, going, "Okay, so is he like a rock star or something like that? I mean, what is this? Who is this guy?" And
I'm just shuffling. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you're just.
I'm just shuffling through life, loving on a lot of people. That's all I'm doing.
Well, I appreciate both of you and what you're doing, and
Thank you.
I will. You keep in touch with me, okay?
All right, we'll do that.
All right,
we'll send you over some pictures, Rick.
Okay, that'd be great. See you later, man.
Thank you. Bye-bye.